In this section, we will understand the developer tool with practical examples for different purposes like debugging, testing and modifying the code, etc. The category of this question is debugging techniques. There will be two relative questions in this topic. Here I have written this HTML code having one h1 tag, a button with a click event, and here is the JavaScript code for the same. Let me open this in the browser and I will press Ctrl+Shift+I, that is to open the developer tool. So here is its source code. Now if you want to modify any text or design and see how it will look without changing the code in your workspace or code editor, then it can be done here in the Elements panel. For example, let's say here I want JavaScript developers instead of hello developers. So I will write JavaScript here and press enter. Now you can see the text changed. Similarly, let me click on this button code, and here on the right you will see the CSS applied to the button. This is the default CSS of the element. But you can add or change your own CSS using this element.style. That is, it applies the style to the selected element, and here we have selected this button. So let's try to change its color. I will say background color and select any of these colors. This is how you can test and modify the style, layout and design of the elements in the web page and preview them as well here in the browser itself. This will not change anything on the server. It is only for the help of developers. It is a common practice of developers to print the logs here in the console panel, which is its main use along with running JavaScript. You can make changes in the web page using the console as well, as it has full access to the page window. Here, let us practically log a message in the console. In this code, this button calls the showConsole function on its click event, which will display a log in the console. Going to the browser, let's click on the button. You can see the log is printed in the console. You can also write commands or expressions in the console like this simple addition. Or let me change the content of this h1. In the console I will write, let's say document.getElementById h1.innerHTML is equal to hello console, and let's press enter. You see the h1 text is modified. The console is considered as an interface, as we call it as console API of the window object for the developers. That provides fundamental debugging functionalities like logging, stack traces, timers and counters, etc. The console object has many default methods like console.assert, console.log, console.debug, .error and many others, which we will learn in a dedicated console object section. The sources panel is used for many purposes like to view files, edit CSS and JavaScript, debugging, to create and save JavaScript snippets, or set up a workspace, etc. Let me open this sidebar which shows the list of all the files. Here, let me open the script.js file to see the code. Now, let's run this file. On the button click, this h1 content will change to this. Let me click on the button. But it did not work and the console is not even showing any error message. To find out why, we need to debug the code. And for that, we can use breakpoints. Breakpoint is the point that we put on a line of code where we want the debugger to stop or pause the execution to find the error or exception. To put a breakpoint, here just click once near the line number and you will see a breakpoint added here in the list of breakpoints. Now let's run this again. As you can see, the debugger has paused the execution, and here on the same line where we put the breakpoint, I can figure out the mistake, and that is the pair of parentheses that is missing after the function name. Let me go to VS Code and correct it. Save the file and then run. And now it is working fine. You can put multiple breakpoints like this. Here we used breakpoint, and we will learn the process of debugging in detail using these options. That is, with conditions, with the help of watch, call stack, scope and other additional tools here in the forthcoming tutorials. Developer tool also provides mobile simulation, which means you can simulate to mobile devices appearance to inspect how the page looks and works on mobile devices. From this toggle device option, again I will open the site Amazon. Let me click here and take the developer tool to the right like this. As you can see, the page becomes responsive. Here it shows the iPad Pro screen size, and when you open this drop down, you can select any preferred device size like this. When you click on edit, you will find more device options, and you can also add custom devices. You can also access many other settings like this. If you want to customize the responsive page layout, select responsive from here and you can adjust the size the way you want. These are few commonly used developer tool features. So now let's discuss relative questions. The first question is, what is responsive web design, that is RWD? Well, responsive web design is something where you design the website which you open on a computer screen. It looks that it is built for that screen only. If you open it in a tablet, if you open it in a mobile device, so no matter in which screen you open, it will appear as if it is designed for that particular screen size only. There are many ways to make the responsive designs. The key points which make the site responsive is basically the CSS, especially media query. You can use Bootstrap to make site responsive, and Flexbox is also widely used to make the layout responsive. The second question is, what is a breakpoint and how do you place it? A breakpoint simply means a point that you place on a line of code where you want to break or pause the execution of code for debugging or just to evaluate the values of various variables. As we saw here in the source panel, by clicking on the line number, a breakpoint is placed. It means the execution of code will pause on this line. Here it shows the list of breakpoints in the code.